Hi, Jennifer and Robin here from Hungry for More. Today, we're so excited because we've been talking to you a lot about mindset and how that plays a role in weight management. And today, we're going to move on and we are going to talk a little bit about nutrition and how that plays a role in weight management. But before we do that, I want Robin to give you an overview of what we've already discussed.
Yes. So, hi, everyone. We have been talking the last 6 episodes we've been focused on the hormones. So if you remember, we taught that there's 3 main hormones responsible for weight management. So we can cut out all the stuff we've been focusing on and chasing these little, different fads and stuff, and come back home to the body who's in charge of weight management. And it has 3 main hormones that it's its job to manage your weight. So we have ghrelin. That's the hormone that tells you it's time to eat. It's the hunger hormone, right? And we need the mindset work with that. The answer to regulating ghrelin is all mindset, because you're going to be getting lots of different prompts and cues to eat that isn't the ghrelin speaking to you. It's your mind, right? We have the damn eats, the conditioned eats, and the emotional eats. And so mindset is the solution to regulating ghrelin. It is also the solution to regulating leptin. Leptin is the hormone that says, I am satisfied, that was delicious, please stop now. And again, the solution to managing this and how we get out of whack with it is we just keep eating because, well, it tastes so good, or I want to finish my plate, or because we're not even paying attention. We're not in tune with the body to hear that cue. So the mindset work around being mindful as you eat and paying attention will regulate that hormone. Now there's the third hormone, which is insulin, which it's her favorite hormone. She's kind of an insulin nerd.
I kind of am an insulin nerd. I'm going to take over from here. No,
yes.
I've studied insulin a lot. And not only have I studied it, I've put a lot of it to the test. And it's so interesting because already by using ghrelin, listening to ghrelin and listening to leptin, you start controlling your insulin a little bit, because gone are the days of where you're just snacking and eating all day. And when you're doing that, insulin is being released. So already you're doing a really good job at regulating it. But there comes another factor where we're going to talk a little bit about the nutrition side of things, because one of the things that's so liberating with what we're teaching you is gone are the days of having to count your calories, count your macros, make sure everything is balanced. I've done that and I've taught that for a lot. And it was so freeing when I didn't have to worry about it anymore. And so we're able to do that. The trick is not going extreme, right? The first thing is we don't want to count everything. And the best visual to give you for that is, does a baby count everything that's going in their mouth? No, that does not happen unless there's some medical condition and you have to be watching it, right? They know when they're hungry. They know when they're full. Okay, they're not counting. And no extremes. And I hear extremes all the time. Oh, I'm going on a vacation in 2 weeks. I basically need to do something really crazy so I can drop 10 pounds before I go. Or just really hardcore that don't flow with your regular life. Like it makes it really hard to move on. Do you have anything to say about the
completely cutting out and just being like, I'm not eating this food unless it's a true, like, convicted reason of like, truly, I never intend to eat this food again. And I have a convicted reason for it, not because
not for diet mentality. Because like for me, there is a particular food I don't eat, but it's because I don't like how I feel when I eat it. I like what it tastes like, but then the aftermath isn't so great. So I'm like, I try to avoid it. It's not out of deprivation. I can have it if I want it, but why? Because I don't feel great when I eat it. And the other thing is it's so important. A lot of times when we're trying to work on weight management, we focus so much on what we can't have or shouldn't have. And then what happens? I want that.
Yeah.
I can't have that.
Damn.
Come on, any kid, tell them they can't have it. It's exactly what they want. And as adults, we're kind of the exact same way. I don't care what anybody says. And so it's understanding that yes, you can have it. But here's the really cool thing is that if you focus on all the nutrient dense foods and focus on all of those nutrients that you can have, a lot of those other foods that don't serve your body or your insulin as well naturally fall off, because you're getting nutrient full at the same time you're getting hunger full. And it doesn't mean there isn't a place for them. There is a place for them. Yesterday was my birthday and I had a few things that I don't have on a regular basis. It wasn't because it was my birthday. I didn't go in with the attention, but I was like, oh, we went out to dinner and I had a little bit of it and it was fine and it was okay. And I felt great mentally and physically when I left. And so it's very interesting to me. Do you have any more to say about the nutrient thing? Because nutrients is such a big deal to me that I've heard one of the guys that I love listening to says, nutrients in is more important than what you're cutting out.
Yeah. I mean, let's be with that for a minute, because I know for me, whenever I would start, like I decide, okay, I've got to lose some weight. My first thought was, what do I need to stop eating?
Correct.
And I think that's very normal. What do I need to take away? And we're saying, no, focus on the nutrients. Now we're saying nutrients, but that's pretty vague. What we're talking about the nutrients that best support insulin regulation, that don't spike your insulin as high. And we'll go into that a little bit into this conversation. But as we're bringing in those nutrients that the human body was made to consume and loves and thrives from, then yes, we will be nutritiously full, and nutritiously our needs are met there. And there is room. There is room for those other foods, that the desserts, for the treats, for that bread that you want to have, right? There is room for all of that. And that's what I wanted to recap there, is those extremes. That's why we call it simple nutrition principles that support insulin regulation.
Right. And I want to make one more point, because we were just coaching on this with one of our clients the other day. You can listen to your ghrelin and leptin, but if you're eating candy the whole day and you're eating it when you're hungry and stopping when you're full, it doesn't tend to have nutrients in it, first of all. And so usually you're hungry a lot more, but it also releases so much insulin that your body gets more than it can handle. So it's not that you can't have the candy or the treat, it's that it overflows. So, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Why don't you introduce them to kind of how we teach insulin with our food funnel?
Yes. So, taking a look at my notes here, making sure. Yeah. So we have designed what we call the food funnel. Again, we're all about simple nutrition. We're not having you count. How's our funnel? We're not having you count. We're not tracking. We're not, if you're making a meal plan, it's because when I make a meal plan, it's just so I can be organized and have my shopping list. Right. It's not the Bible of how I'm eating that week. It's not like, well, if I don't have a meal plan, shoot, I'm unprepared. There goes everything. This week, I didn't have a meal plan. I wasn't organized on Sunday and ordered my groceries for Monday. I didn't do that. And so I've just kind of been taking day by day, figuring out what to do. And I'm still eating within the funnel. I'm still eating, the simple nutrition. So we love that. And within this,
oh, go ahead. I think you're going to say that. I was going to say how the layout of that funnel is, because they're like,
yeah. So within the funnel, it's all organized based on not the hierarchy of foods based on moral value or healthy to junk. We include all the foods, right? All the different things that we love and accept as part of our diet. Like I have not forsaken sugar or never will eat bread again, right? So there's a place for these things in our lives. And they're listed based on the impact that food group has on your insulin. So
and nutrient value.
And nutrient value. Yes.
Yeah.
So they're like, we teach so mightily and so passionately that there's like removing moral labels from food is essential to your psychology around food, to your behaviors with food, to how you feel when you consume food. But there is something to be said about the nutritional value, and what we're looking for and what scientifically we know is that the food and how it impacts your insulin is what's going to impact your weight. So anything more you want to say about that?
No, I think that's great. I think it's so nice because I can show up anywhere without a plan and go, okay, here's what I'm going to eat. And I always tell people, look at the menu as a list of ingredients, not as this, and look at what those ingredients are. And if I'm trying to stay like in the top of the funnel is what I usually say, then I go that route. And if there's things that are lower in that funnel that I want, I usually eat them towards the end. So I know I'm getting those nutrients in.
Right. So the way we describe it, as we teach it in our membership program, we call it phase 2. The first 3 months, we're completely focused on those first 2 hormones, ghrelin and leptin, and the mindset work, right? Because it is difficult to try to make better nutritional choices when your brain is constantly pushing you to eat. And so these first 3 months, we focus on taking the food away from the mind hunger response, and the brain adjusts and you get pushed less and less to eat, right? For reasons outside of hunger. So then we move to phase 2, where now we start working on these simple nutrition principles. And when you can see in the funnel that there is nothing getting taken away from you, that there's a place to eat for health, yes, and for pleasure, and that there can be a balance. And what we call it when we're teaching it is managing within the funnel. And so I think it would be helpful for us to share an example here of, we had a client who's kind of newer in the funnel, in the second phase, and had the experience of eating within the funnel and having treats, throughout the week, and that being part of how she managed. And she lost weight. And she was like, oh my gosh, because I am telling you guys, because of diet culture, we're convinced that these two can't coexist. If I'm going to lose weight, then I can't have these. I have to give these things up. It will ruin and sabotage me, right? So for her, that was really exciting. The next week, the way she managed in it was, she still, like you said, she still was eating when she was hungry, and she stopped when she was full, but she was eating a lot more. She was less focused on the nutrient things to be like the priority in her stomach. And she had brought in more of the treats and stuff that were lower in the funnel as far as nutrition value. And she was off balance. But when she came to the call, and we're sharing this because this is such a shared mindset we have. She said, see, I just have to give up those foods because I didn't, I ate them and I didn't lose weight. And then when we went further into it and we questioned it, it wasn't the treat itself that caused her to gain the weight. It was how she managed within it, that she had not prioritized the nutritious foods,
Right.
and because of that, it flooded out. That's what we call, because we teach the food funnel model, kind of like a river with boundaries, right? So anyway, we were flooded out of insulin, and it's not that she had the treat, it's that she was off balance in the funnel. That took priority.
Right. No, and it was amazing because before we said anything, as she was talking through, she realized it herself. And we're like, yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool. And you know what? Ultimately, your body just feels better. It feels better. I think of days in the past where I just was like filling it with garbage the whole day. Have you ever had those days where you're like, I just need a vegetable? I need a vegetable so bad. Protein, give me something. It's because that's what our body craves. And there is a place for the other things. And I think that that's great. And that leads into our next point of, it works with our modern lifestyle. A lot of us live in this world. It's not back in just my grandma's day where she was home all day. And maybe she went to the store once a week. People are running their kids here and there, or they're really busy with work, or they're traveling, and just all these different things. We always talk about how many environments you can be in a day. And with this knowledge, and with using the nutrition principles from the food funnel, you can be anywhere and still live within it. So it's not like, oh, I didn't have anything that I could make, so I went through the drive-through and I got this and a fry and a milkshake and all of this stuff. You can, if you want that, and that's what your desire was for the day, you can work that into your food funnel. But the point is, you can go anywhere and eat wherever you want on the food funnel. It doesn't have to be, I wasn't prepared, so I couldn't do it, or I'm going to be so good, so I can never have that. It has nothing to do with being good or bad.
So true. I remember at a time when I was doing like shakes and smoothies and a certain, program I was on, that I packed my blender to take with me on a trip because I wasn't sure if a blender would be available. And that in and of itself is not a problem. The problem that I'm trying to make the point of is the mindset that it has to be a rigid certain way or else. Right. And, what I was speaking to with the meal plan, nothing wrong with having a plan of what you're going to do and keep yourself organized. But when we think that unless we don't eat those exact foods, that it's all over for us, that's going to get us in trouble. And so, the food funnels, what did you want to say?
Oh, no, I was just going to say there's lots of times where I will make a shake or a smoothie or something for a meal, but I don't have that panicky feeling now if I'm gone that I have to pack everything and have it with me. And that's that liberating part of it.
Yes. So we love that, the modern woman who lives at a healthy weight is in tune with her body, that is the solution. She's got these hormones that it's their job, and her job is to listen and to respond. And she can go wherever. Like you can pick me up and drop me anywhere. And I know how to take care of myself. I know how to manage within the funnel. I know how to make the best with what's available to me there. I know I'm in tune with when my body wants pleasure and I enjoy it. And I'm in tune when my body's just like pushing a reason to eat that really isn't a body ask for pleasure. And so I know how to work with that, and to be able to do that in your life and flow with life and not feel like you have to wait until, the summer when school is out, so then I can really focus on my weight because then I'll be home more. No, you need your mind and your stomach and to be able to, understand and be conscious with what's going on and what's pushing you to eat and not, pushing you to eat, and then making the decisions when it's time to eat based on those foods that are going to, you're going to prioritize the nutritious foods. That's really it. And it's so much freedom. And I have to make this point. It completely cut out how much I was thinking about food during the day. Tell me about what that used to be like for you.
Oh my gosh. When I ran the kitchen at substance abuse recovery centers, and they would say, when you're an addict because you think about your next hit while you're in your current one. And that's how I was with food. It was like, I could be eating a meal and already going, okay, what am I going to have next time I eat? What am I going to do? What's the plan? What's the plan? And part of it was just that, oh, well, if I don't have a plan, then I won't succeed. So I've got to be prepared. So I know what I'm doing. We know that is not the case. I still have really good friends who are like, well, I'm going to start that when I get back from this trip, or I'm going to do that. I'm like, just take your brain and your stomach with you.
Yeah.
You can go on a vacation and not come back 10 pounds heavier and still have every single food that you want to enjoy on that trip.
Mind blowing, right?
Yes.
So great. And I agree. Constant thinking about it. When's my next snack? When am I allowed to eat again? What am I going to, I need to make sure I know what I'm doing or I'm in trouble. And this it cuts it out, where it's just like, I love, describing it this way, where like, hey, body, I've got all this going on today. You let me know when you need something to eat. Otherwise, I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then when it is, you're like, oh, thanks for letting me know. Let me now prioritize the nutritious things.
Yes.
If pleasure calls truly in that moment too, okay. If not, whatever, I nourish myself and I move on.
Right. Well, and a point to what you're saying, it's so funny. Have you ever had a day where you're so busy, you're like, oh my gosh, it's 4 p.m. I haven't eaten anything. And you're like, wow, I'm actually still standing and I didn't die. It's like, that's the boredom and all of that, right? Where we're just eating because it's what you do at that time. It's when people have an assigned lunch break and they have to eat there. And so whether they're hungry or not, that's when you eat lunch, right? It's all of that plays into it. So that's where the ghrelin and the leptin help so much. But I'm like, hey, if you get till 4 p.m. and you haven't eaten, if your body wants food, you're not going to get till 4 p.m. I assure you, you're going to be like, I need food right now.
Right.
People around you might tell you, you need food right now.
Yes. I love when people share that scenario, when they kind of become aware of that, of like, it's so interesting. I feel on a regular basis that I'm hungry all the time and that I'm fighting food off. But then, they'll say, I was at this thing and I was so involved with it. And, I didn't eat until like 2 when my body was like, hey, it's time to feed me. And I always love making the point of like, so what's the difference? Is your body less hungry on that day than it is normally? And it's not. It's just that you're so focused on other things, you're not thinking of the mind hunger all the time, right? Or you're not in the same setting where maybe you have a lot of those routines with food that are just conditioned. And so you really recognize the body doesn't have constant need to eat. No. You don't have to go without. You don't need to make yourself go hungry. Certainly not. We live in abundant times and that is a blessing. Let's answer to that. But it goes to show, on the other days when we feel like, man, I'm just wanting food all the time, it goes to show how much the mind is involved with it, and how it has, the body's just like, sorry, I'm still good, So
yeah, no, I'm good. I don't need it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
So true. One of the beautiful things I think it's worth pointing out too within this funnel is when you do prioritize the nutritious foods, then your body is satisfied longer. So it affects your insulin spikes less, your satiation level when you eat and you feel fully satisfied, your satiation level will last a lot longer because we're not gonna have this big spike and then the dip, which means the other hormones, the ghrelin hormone regulates as well as the leptin. And so, these 3 hormones, I know we're always looking, even sometimes our clients where, they'll gain the weight a week and they'll be like, oh my gosh, maybe I should start doing this or that, or maybe I need to, cut this out. And we're like, come back to the 3 main hormones and where do we need to work within that? That's the framework. And always we see, oh, that's, in our case that we shared earlier, oh, it's not because I had a treat. It's because I flooded out. That took more space in my stomach than the other things. Right. And so when these things work together, you're more satiated, you're more supported. You don't think all the time about the food, and you can move with confidence that you just know how to take care of yourself wherever you go.
Right. And I think I will give an example just of when I have two things. I wrote down one thing so I don't forget it. But,
Yeah.
if I go out to eat, what happens when you go to a steakhouse? You sit down and they put usually bread in front of
Bread.
you,
Yeah.
butter, and it smells so good and it's so enticing. And this is what would happen with my family. We would actually go for years on Christmas Eve. We went to Texas Roadhouse. It was
Oh
like
yeah.
our tradition. We've since changed that. But for a long time we did. And what would happen is the rolls would come and they'd eat them and they'd eat them and they'd eat them. And then dinner would come and nobody would eat anything. Everybody would pack
Yeah.
up their
Few
dinner.
bites.
So my new rule of thumb, if I want the bread or I want the chips or I want something like that is, and you can even ask them to not bring it until your dinner comes. So it's not just sitting there, getting cold.
Yeah.
Rolls are better hot. Let's be honest.
Right, for sure.
But my new rule of thumb is to order my meal. And if I want that roll to allow for it, for me, this is how I do it. I allow for it at the end of my meal, because then what happens is I'm getting filled up on my nutrient dense foods. And then at the end, I can say, do I still want the roll or don't I? And if I do, I can eat it. And if I don't, I just wanted it because it was
None the worse.
there and I was hungry when I went in, but I've at least gotten my nutrients in. So it's
That you're
not,
still enjoying.
you can't have it. And you're just sitting there staring at it. I'm going to kind of change the order of how I eat. And that has changed so much for me in my life, because I was telling Robin yesterday was my birthday and we went out for Mexican food and I did want some tortilla chips, which I don't typically eat. Corn doesn't do great with my body. And it actually kind of does spike my insulin, but you eat all your nutrient dense foods first, and then I could finish it off with some chips and feel good about that. And instead of eating, my family calls me Chippy Monster. My energy used to be so high with chips, they'd be like flowing out of the side of my mouth. Not Cookie Monster, Chippy Monster. There is a story behind that, and I'm not proud of it, but it did happen. Think of the highest energy you could have after being deprived of chips and then
energy
and going to Chili's. That's the problem. Anyway, and the other point I wanted to make is with these three hormones, when one of them is out of balance, they all are out of balance. Like they all work together. And so already listening to the ghrelin and leptin and eating on cue and stopping when full will help the insulin. But then if you can then support your body by eating those nutrient dense foods and not focusing so much on the ones that really spike you and having them when you want them, when it works into it, you're going to find all these hormones work synergistically together for the better of your body.
Yeah. Beautiful. Love it. We feel so strongly that it was taking like the basic thing that we do on a daily basis to maintain a body was never meant to be a complicated puzzle to solve. And I know it can feel that way. I felt that way so much of the time. And it is not. And your body has the answers. We've made that point, so I won't go into again, but these three main hormones, if you can come back home to that and stop feeling like you have to do any sort of gimmick or fad out there, and you just come home to that, then it will be simple. It was by design meant to be simple. I think back to, 100 years ago, even beyond that, 500 years ago, were they logging? They didn't have an app to go log, and they did okay. They had healthy bodies. And so this is about, we are so pleased to bring the good news that you can lose weight and live at a healthy weight. Well, your nutrition is simple. There's no deprivation. There's no mind games about, moral labels to things, guilt when you eat. It can be simple. You can eat for health and for pleasure, and you can live at a healthy weight. And we love sharing that message. We love teaching these principles. And if you have more questions about this and what our membership program looks like, we've made it super affordable to join our membership. Reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you about it and get you in the program.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we're good. I was just going to lead in. Next week, we are going to be talking a little bit more about how eating, it's the most basic form of self-care.
Yes.
And how simple it really, really is. So join us next week for that one. For now, if you like what you heard, like and subscribe, and please share. We all know people who are struggling. It may be us, but we may know other people who are struggling with weight management, and they're just, it's a battle. It's an everyday battle. So please share, because we would love, love, love to be able to help them also. Have a great day, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.